Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers. It's a podcast about sharing music with your friends and telling each other your thoughts. It's like a book club for music. I'm PETEY, RAVE, your man with no plan. That's the most coherent intro I've ever done. Don't get used to it. Here with me is my crew, my team, my squad, my quorum. We've got Brett.
Right near the beach, boy.
We've got Drew.
It's totally lit, fam.
And we've got Patrick.
420 blaze it.
Woo! Let's get MLG Pro up in this. Let that soak in. Let's get it started. We're going to talk about music, of course, as we always do. We share music with each other. The person sharing an album with us today, this week, is Brett. Brett, what have you got for us this week?
Hi.
I PETEY.
Yeah. That was the most coherent I've been in a long time too, PETEY. This album that I brought is a little doozy from a band named Megadeth. It's the album Rust in Peace.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Well, Megadeth is one of those bands where everyone knows Megadeth. It's Megadeth. Like, they were the band that formed because a dude was kicked out of another band, right? Like, everybody sort of knows Megadeth and where they sort of come from. So it was a band that I was pretty familiar with. I know the hits. I know some other things besides the hits because I roll in some metal circles every now and again. But it wasn't a band that I had seeked out to do, like, the full album listen. And if we're going to do one, this would be the one. So I was super excited because this is like one of those albums that everybody says, like, no, this is a full album that you should listen to before you stop listening to music, can't hear, and you're in the grave. So I was super excited to check this one off the list.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what were your expectations coming into this album?
As someone who is more of a metalhead than Drew, I'm pretty familiar with this one. I've seen Megadeth live twice. I've seen probably half this album played live. We'll get into the specifics of the things I enjoy about this record, but this is a good one. Although I will say I prefer its follow-up Countdown to Extinction ever so slightly more, while recognizing that this album has two songs that are better than anything on that record.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get down to it. Brett, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes elements?
Well, guess what? It's Megadeth. So you get some Dave Mustaine, and the way that he writes, the way his voice sounds, kind of like a parody of himself at times, and all of the licks that he wrote for Metallica, he took right along with him in his giant briefcase, Jerry Maguire style, along with that, I think this was Marty's first album with the band, so you get that, which is a guy playing a little less minor pentatonic in his solos and doing some stuff that's I don't want to get into like the weird like music stuff, but yeah, there are things that you can hear. You can tell definitely who wrote what part of what solo when you're listening to Megadeth, when it's like, wow, that sounds like it's very Middle Eastern inspired in ways. You're like, oh, somebody has done some homework once. And that does not sound like something that came from a Diamond Head album that we may or may not have listened to for this show. But yeah, like it's one of the bands that you would think of if you wanted to hear grandpa thrash metal. There's the two guitars, the contrasting style. That's sort of the Megadeth aesthetic. That I'm typing it out with words, Drew. So, the lyrically, Megadeth is kind of silly sometimes. They also are not silly sometimes, but if you think back now, it's, they're they got their beef with Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr. Because they're old. This album's old. But they do criticize society and government and aliens. But it sometimes comes across extra silly when the cartoon that is Dave Mustaine and his voice come through. This isn't really the album where like Dave Ellefson's bass really shines. There's no peace cells on this album. The drums are better than they have to be, but that's not really what brings you to this album. And this is another one of those albums that I bring that has, well, I guess there are more than a handful of tracks, but the tracks are long. I mean, these songs go places. They do some things. And when we start breaking things down song by song, we can get a little more granular.
PETEY, you're very muted.
Oh, damn it.
He muted.
God damn it.
I think you got Drew's. Did you take Drew's cable?
Possibly.
Weird thing is, I have the same cable from the last time we recorded, and that has
You're breaking the
time.
I don't know. I'll figure it out at some point. But yeah, Drew, what would be the themes elements that caught your attention?
Well, like the themes and elements. Let's see. Cold War, nuclear, aliens, anger. Those are sort of the lyrical themes that we get into. That's awesome. Anytime my metal can talk about space aliens, specifically ones from a hangar in Dayton, that's all right by me. This is, like I said, one of those albums that everybody's like, no, you have to listen to this. And it's there for a reason. That reputation, not listening to it from cover to cover, is obviously warranted. It's a metal classic for a reason. There's, like Patrick said, there are definitely 2 songs on here you probably know inside and out, and for good reason. Some of the best metal there. The Dave Mustaine vocals, yes, sometimes he does sound like a cartoon of himself. It's almost like a Dave Mustaine satire. And his satire is also Dave Mustaine. But I think that his vocals are just some of the coolest. Like that is what I want all metal vocalists to do. He has a wide range of like weirdness that he can get into. There's some biting stuff, there's some growly stuff, but then like he can hit a soaring long note for no reason, and it sounds just as good. Like he can meld himself into most songs, which I think is great. There is some intricate guitar work on this record, and with something like Dave Mustaine and him writing some of the best Metallica licks, probably are going to get something like that. That being said, yes, Ellefson doesn't shine as far as the intricacy goes in his bass work, but I would like to know the gear that this dude uses, because like what kept hooking me about the bass in this one was definitely like there was a tone to it. There was just this this hollow, heavy thud to a lot of it that I think was really, really well done. I know we have a gear guy here, so hey, maybe he
Charvel basses and old PVs.
I have a breakdown of all of the recording gear from this album.
Charvel basses and old PVs.
Thank you. I would love to see that. Just because it would, like, it's just cool. Like, especially stuff like that has a very, like, this album has a very specific tone to it and a very specific production quality to it that I think is really, really fantastic. And Brett made special note to not get the 2004 reissue.
Oh yeah, it sounds like butt. Like there are solos that don't even cut through. It's real bad.
Yeah,
real bad.
This, I don't know why they would have done it, because this sounds like it was mixed by someone who was mixing metal now. Like metal bands are trying to get this mix. I don't know why you would have to reissue it and mix it different. Reissue, sure. Add a couple of songs and demos, sure. But like, when you have a mix this good, don't fuck with it. It's kind of fantastic.
Yeah. Patrick, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes elements that caught your attention?
So, Dave Mustaine is a guy who was enough of a drunk asshole to get kicked out of Metallica. Just think about that for a second if you've ever learned anything about the history of Metallica. He is a character in the history of metal music. But then again, the guy knew how to write a fucking guitar lick like nobody's business. So you've got here, some super, super duper riffage. Dave Mustaine vocals, which are not my favorite in thrash metal, but like totally acceptable within the expectations of the genre. And him with probably the best band he ever managed to get to stay with him for more than 5 minutes. Dave Ellefson, who is either as crazy as Dave Mustaine
No.
or the most patient human being on earth.
That's more
tolerated
like it.
him for like 20 years. He is one or the other, and he cannot be one or the other. Is a really underappreciated bass player in metal. Metal is not a genre with a whole lot of bass heroes outside of Cliff. But
that's why the joke in Metalocalypse of them fucking just mostly mixing Murderface out of, or I think that's the bass, Murderface out of the songs.
Yes.
Yep. There aren't a whole lot of bass players in the genre who get their due, but Dave Ellefson is one who really should get his. He's kind of great. And then Marty Friedman, who is so Dave Mustaine, for all intents and purposes, is a lead guitar player that also plays some rhythm stuff sometimes. And Dave Ellefson and Marty Friedman is a ludicrously talented lead guitar player who tolerated Dave Mustaine for like a decade. So you get all of here, and it comes out to being sort of, if you were going to give the history of metal music, if you were like going to like lay it out to like say 10 albums, I feel like this would end up on that list. And this isn't my favorite Megadeth record, but it is, I think, the most Megadeth record. It is
Megadeth-ass Megadeth.
It is a Megadeth ass album. Like, let me tell you,
it is. This is peak Megadeth. You get Dave Mustaine with his craziness and weird vocals, but also great riff writing and guitar playing. You get Marty Friedman's solos, and he is a very talented man who, for a long time, tolerated being in a band with Dave Mustaine. You get Dave Ellefson, who is clearly the most patient, wonderful human, and a drummer, Nick Menza, who was good at what he did and did really, like, he's not a flourishy drummer, but like, very much contributed to the quality of what went into this. So like, this is very much like thrash metal was definitely slowing down by the time this record came out in 1990, but it did not go out. It did not go quietly into this good night before grunge hit. This was definitely, a band being like, nah, we're not done yet. We're going to keep doing this, even though, popular taste is shifting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Like I said, the Megadeth-ass Megadeth album. Like, it's like the cross section of what Megadeth is on this album and on display for sure. Like Dave Mustaine, I like Dave Mustaine's vocals because they're unique. Like he like sometimes unique and distinct, unique, and like relatable, and you can pick them out is probably a little bit better than good.
I'd rather be memorable than good.
Also, I just realized that I had been recording myself there for a hot minute in audio, but that's fine.
Well,
Oh wait, no, that's fine. That's fine. No. Oh, God, I shouldn't have said anything because I was looking at the wrong thing. But yeah, I like his vocals because sometimes, having a distinct sound, having your own thing, almost kind of like how I mentioned back when we were talking about Dixie Chicks, when we had Squiggles on. That the Dixie Chicks album he put on that Dixie Chicks was a very talented, competent band. But the Dixie Chicks that became the Dixie Chicks once they signed to a label were the Dixie Chicks. It's you know, do you want to be really good or do you want to be unique? Do you want to be another really good thing or do you want to be really, you know, your own thing? Where Dave Mustaine has a unique thing and a sound, and that you can pick him out. You can't replace him, which is really cool. But let's talk about some of the key tracks. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks zeroing on?
Well, Holy Wars. How about that? The song that really actually the song that made me want to bring this album, because there are other Megadeth albums that you can choose, but we'd like to thank you for choosing Rust in Peace. Holy Wars, what a fucking song. That is a song that goes places. There are way better places to go if you want to have a breakdown of just this song, but you know, it's 6 minutes of everything I ever wanted from Megadeth. It's more than just musical gymnastics. It's one of the finest examples of the genre. It's a specimen. Gas it, stick a pin through it, put it on a piece of cork, put it under glass with a light, and look at it every now and then and be like, wow, that's a thing that happened. Somebody made Holy Wars and put it in the front of an album in 1990. Man, it does what it needs to do, and it's for being an old ass song, holds up pretty well.
How about a random sitar breakdown in the middle of it for your spring of the album?
Well, I mean, Marty, you'll notice a lot of times on both Holy Wars and there are other songs. When you start hearing like the Middle Eastern sounding, it's harmonic minor is a wonderful thing. Dave Mustaine lives in the minor pentatonic world, which is the thing that every guitarist who's learned to play the blues does. He also hangs out just straight up minor, but like you can very much tell when it's just like, you know, and when there's something that sounds very much not like Western music all of a sudden coming out of your heavy metal, and you're like, wow, somebody has read a Mel Bay book. And I know that person was not Dave Mustaine. You're like, wow, it's really great when you have somebody that can, you know, do shit like that. Which is, you know, why having two different lead guitarists in a band it is a good thing, because they can not be the same guy. And they can do stuff like that.
They can have weird ideas. Yeah,
they can contrast in a way that's great. And I don't know if it was this song or like all of them, but like there's a reason why I have a JCM 800. Like there's something about the tone of these songs with like sometimes there's a little bit of chorus thrown in to make it sound kind of fucked up and awesome. It's pretty great. But other than Holy Wars, I mean, Holy Wars is like the like specimen. But like Hangar 18 is probably the song that to me, like I have every note of that song burned into my head, like note for note. If like I heard somebody at a Guitar Center play it, like I could tell if they like flubbed something up by like a sloppy bend, because when I was a teenager, it was just this CD lived in the back of everyone's car. We listened to it all the fucking time, and as I grew up, I couldn't get rid of this song. When Guitar Hero came out, everybody was playing this song again, so I got to hear it another forever.
You got to hear half of it, and then everybody failed, and then they had to start it over again.
Yeah, and I was like, why are we playing a guitar game that's just a rhythm? Wait, those are two things that I... No. Yeah, I was... that was at the time when I was confused about rhythm games and being like, what the fuck? But... you know, like one of my favorite pieces of guitar work that Megadeth ever did was at about like the 250 mark on Hangar 18. And this is a great, like, the contrast between the two solos. Like, you know, the first solo is straight up Dave. You can tell it's Dave Mustaine all the way. It's like I heard this played on a Metallica album somewhere before. And then you go in, you hear what Marty did. Yeah, go figure. I have theories that I don't know that I've brought to the table here. That Metallica stopped playing those awesome thrash metal stuff when they ran out of things that they remembered that Dave Mustaine wrote, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Well, shit, what are we gonna do?" And then they gave us the worst. Yes. Then all of a sudden they started to suck. But then again, Dave Mustaine took all of his stuff and played it up through the 90s, and then he started to suck too. But Hangar 18, contrasting styles stand out. Also, Aliens. And for a good third track, I'll throw in the titular track, Rust in Peace, Ellipses, Polaris. They're every Megadeth. It's like calling a woman by your ex-girlfriend's name. Every Megadeth album has like this little jaunty track where Dave Mustaine gets to go full like cartoony.
Dave Mustaine?
Yeah, and it's kind of gory. It kind of has a hint of like some like they even modulated his vocals in part of it. It's a fun way to close the album, and it's a fun way to close an album that is a pretty fun album for being a as fun as Megadeth can be. You got to look at it as like this is bunch of edgelords driving around their pickup truck, throwing their empty beer cans through the sliding back glass window in the early 90s, living in the middle of nowhere, having nothing to grasp a hold of except for sick guitar riffs. And this album has that.
Yeah. True. What would be some of the key tracks for you?
Brett saying that, now I wish that edgelords were making sick metal and not dumb memes.
Yeah.
But it'd be great. So I'm gonna go through the same. I'm gonna go through the same. As my cursing in the background may have tipped you off, I'm gonna go through the exact same three that Brett just went through. Starting with Holy Wars. Ellipses, the punishment. This is the longest song on the record, which is a bold move to start a record with the longest song. But
worked for 2112.
It did. I'm not saying it's a bad move. I'm saying it's bold. You have to have some cojones to pull that off. It did, because this song, like Brett said, goes some weird fucking places. The style in this changes, but never loses like what this song kind of is. It's also a song inspired by Israel and Ireland, which is crazy, and the Punisher. So Dave Mustaine, folks. And then it leads into Hangar 18, which everyone knows Hangar 18. It's been in everything from Guitar Hero to Duck Dodgers to there was something else that I can't think of. Oh, there was references in it in Overwatch. That's what I was thinking of. So like it's a song that is very well known about aliens in Ohio, which I think is great. Anytime you shout out to Ohio.
Did they have to have the plate that they wear on the back of their UFO if they get a space DUI? Like, I mean, they did crash their UFO. I mean,
they did.
Yeah. The party plate. It's my favorite thing about Ohio.
Yep. I knew where you were going with that. Ours are. There's other states with party plates, but ours are yellow, and that makes me happy. There's a state where it's pink, and that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I don't know. But Hangar 18 is a great song. They're both Holy Wars and Hangar 18 are classics. And then you have a song with one of the great, weird, out there choruses of all time, because you're writing the entire chorus in the perspective of a nuclear warhead, which I think is fucking brilliant. Like, god damn it. Like, it's fucking great. Your biting commentary on war is coming from the anger of an actual warhead. That's cool. Dave Mustaine's a crazy person, but that shit's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm a wizard, and that's fucked up.
Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
There are 2 songs on this album that are better than all of the others, and those are the first 2. Holy Wars is the greatest thrash metal riff ever written. That is not hyperbole. I don't know what's better than this. Genuinely.
P-Cells.
No, P-Cells had a better bass line. Guitar riff, it's this. That's me, but I don't know. This is to me is the best. This is the best thrash metal ever got. And like Megadeth are not my favorite thrash band. They're not my second favorite thrash band. I'm not even sure they're my third favorite thrash band. But this is the best song of the genre. It is perfect. This song is 90 seconds of intro. That is how guitar focused it is. It goes for 90 seconds before you hear Dave Mustaine singing. And there's a cool classical guitar break for no reason other than, Marty Friedman could do it. It's perfect. It is one of the greatest metal songs ever written. And I don't care that Dave Mustaine's a crazy person. He made this, and therefore I will always have some tiny ounce of like, nah, but you're all right sometimes for Dave Mustaine. This is I cannot just listen to it and listen to it really critically and listen to how cool the guitar riff is. And it's just cool. It's not the most complicated thing. It's not the most difficult thing. It's just cool as fuck. And the solos are good. The song's good. And Hangar 18. This, I was listening to it today, and like I've been listening to this song now forever. It's great. It's really, 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 really good. It just follows something that's ever so slightly better than it in my mind. But like the way so you've got this, the intro is basically 2 guitars playing this shifting chord pattern, and they harmonize differently, and like clearly one set of chords is sort of what you would expect and one set of chords is not quite what you'd expect. And it's got a texture and a sort of, harmony to it that's really, really cool. And it's like this just iconic intro that is still fun to listen to today. Dave Mustaine's vocals are way better on Hangar 18. I think this is a song that really suits his voice and sound, which is unique and not bad, but just a little odd. And like the guitar solos and sort of the, we get some Mustaine and then we get some Friedman and we get some Mustaine and we get some Friedman. Having 2 guitar players that good in the same band it was not common in metal at this time. Like you listen to, say, one of their peers like Metallica, Kirk Hammett was the solo player and James Hetfield just did Chugga Chugga Chuggas really well. You listen to even Slayer, where you have, Kerry King made all the crazy sounds, but you had someone there to actually write the songs and be the guy who could play the crazy solos. And Anthrax kind of had the same thing where you got a Chugga 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 guy and then you got a guy that plays all the solos. This, you had 2 dudes playing the solos, and they were different. As Brett said, Dave Mustaine is I learned blues and then learned how to play it really quickly to play metal solos. And then, Marty Friedman, who is, a ludicrously talented fellow who, maybe took a music theory class or 3 or, read a book about it. This song is all of that crammed into one. And not to say that I don't enjoy the rest of the record, but those 2 songs are so good. I feel like you could have ended it after 2 songs and you have a great record.
That'd be one bitchin' single.
Yes. Be the greatest single in the history of singles. But also like there's some cool Dave Ellison bass lines later in the record, but you don't really get to hear him in the first couple of songs.
You don't get to hear him at all in the new the remaster.
Oh,
you hear
was
a lot of vocals, let me tell you that.
Did they do the remaster when Dave Ellison and Dave Mustaine hated each other?
By
as opposed to
do you
now where they
mean, did
tolerated
Dave
each other.
Mustaine do the remaster?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was during that era.
Well,
yeah.
It is not good.
Yeah. Also, the Lucretia starts also has a great name, and starts off with a great like laugh from I don't know who, but it's kind of just a good way to start song. It's also a good song, but like it's the like maniacal laughter at the beginning of Lucretia, is fantastic. Let's bring it back around the horn. Talk about some conclusive thoughts. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
It's fucking great. Go listen to it. To elaborate, the album's considered a classic. The album is considered a classic because, in my opinion at least, the songs from beginning to end were well thought out. The composition of the songs were well done. There is some of the crazy guitar work that you love in thrash is something that this record has in spades. It's just a very well all-around great record as a whole. It's something that people have said it before, and I'll say it here because it's easy, and who listens to me anyways about my opinions on metal, but it's one of those metal records that, like, even if you don't like metal, there's, like, a lot of cool shit in here. And they talk about space aliens. It's metal with aliens in it. It's awesome. It's like metal with aliens, like pirates, Vikings, like that's cool shit.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I got distracted by a GIF. And also by the fact that Marty Friedman is a fluent Japanese speaker, which is awesome.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
I think that's where he lives.
Japan loves their technical guitar players, and Marty Friedman is among the beloved in Japan technical guitar players.
Apparently has
Also,
like
look at that hair.
show.
Who wouldn't love that hair?
Apparently he was either on or had like a cooking show in Japan, and he's on a bunch of different like shows. Like
You know, him and Coolio need to get together.
Yeah. But yeah, Patrick, what would be your conclusion on this album as a whole?
Coolio?
So this is. I will be the first to call out Dave Mustaine for being a crazy person and an asshole and someone I don't like as a person. But goddamn, did he make a couple of great albums in the late '80s and early '90s? This being one of the best of the bunch. If you play guitar, or if you've ever wanted to play guitar and wanted to like hear, like, this is in a lot of ways the peak of metal guitar. Is there better metal guitar playing out there? Absolutely. We've listened to a lot of it, but is there more like iconic guitar lines than the first two songs on this record? I'm not sure. If you were in a metal band today and you haven't listened to Rust in Peace, like, you are missing the fuck out on some stuff.
I don't know. There's some guitar solos on Hogan on Hulk Rules that
Hulk Rules, yes.
Yeah, that's but this is
iconic.
Like,
it is.
Like, this is one of those, things where you're like the guy behind it versus the actual product, and trying to reconcile the fact that you don't like one of them but you really like the other. I've been listening to this album for a long time. Coming back and getting to like listen to it again was an enjoyable experience, and I recommend it. And also the album after this and the albums before this, really sort of late '80s, early '90s Megadeth was all kind of great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, also, I want to watch more Marty Friedman speaking Japanese. Like, but yeah, I mean, overall, this is a fantastic example of thrash metal of the early '90s. Like, this is an iconic album, like Patrick said. It's an iconic set of riffs. There's a lot to like digest musically, just kind of like, but you can also just like bang your head, just like crank it, like and have it be part of
Wow. Whoa.
Hey,
Let's not talk about cranking it, Petey.
you know what? I don't need your kink shaming. If I want to crank it, I'm gonna crank
The
it.
Megadeth.
I'm gonna crank it to whatever I want to. And you're not gonna judge me for it. It's a pretty fantastic album. Dave Mustaine is a nutcase, but he can make good music. Like, Brett, what would be your conclusion on this album?
So you're telling me a guy who's really good at music also has flaws in his mental health and possibly history of substance abuse?
Yes.
No, I'm not breaking any new ground here by saying that this is a good album and people should listen to it if they are even slightly inclined. I believe that has been said before by people who are better at saying it. It's pretty well covered territory. This is a gem for my youth. I enjoy going back to it. It's probably been, 10 years since I've listened to this album in this manner. This was a personal journey to be like, wow, I still have similar taste to that of when I was a younger man, which I can't say about all of the albums that I have listened to and gone back to. Punk rock. Some of that stuff that I listened to when I was in my late teens, early 20s just does not hold up, and this totally does. It's a little more InfoWars sounding today than it did back then, but it's a lovable little slice of what the late 80s, early 90s was like in places where your escape was heavy metal.
Yes.
It's sad that we didn't talk about the song on this album about turning the frogs gay.
For 25 years they've been growing babies inside of cows.
Yeah.
1776
will come again.
Yeah. Yeah, those are our thoughts on Megadeth's Rust in Peace. Yeah, interesting discussion. Go check it out. Let's get into the main event of the evening. We get into our haiku reviews. Get into what where we sum it all up into kind of like pseudo poetic form.
Probably not as good as Marty could.
Yeah, no, nowhere near as good as Marty could. Yeah. Let's get it started. Drew, what is your haiku?
Metal royalty. Necessary listening. More aliens, please.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, what is your haiku?
One of the big four doing some of their best work. Dave is a dick, though.
Well, one of those Daves is a dick. The other one is really nice and thanked my wife personally for taking photos that night.
I will say specifically Dave Mustaine being the dick and David Ellison by apparently Brett's accounts,
but he wasn't a dick to me.
Being a pleasant person. I just think he put up with Dave Mustaine for a long time, so he's either equally as crazy or a really nice, patient man.
I'm putting my foot down.
What?
We've fucked up haikus before. We've all done 1 or 2 syllables more, but that was way more than 5 syllables.
It's like a free verse Kaz style fucking haikuing.
I will say Dave Mustaine is... You've already went over.
My haiku was a haiku. Now the addendum to the haiku was not a haiku, it was an addendum. It
was the footnote.
Footnote.
That ruins the point of a haiku. You have to addendum it.
Sometimes it's poetry is obtuse and is meant for interpretation.
Poetry in motion.
Yeah. Oh, my haiku. All right. Megadeth can shred with killer musicianship and some things to say. Footnote: even if those things are crazy. I have my own.
Man, we're just all ruining the entire haiku.
Hey,
he just followed your damn rules, Drew. You set the rules. He followed them. Can't win.
Brett, what is your haiku?
Thrash metal standards, written by some of the best music of my youth.
Mm-hmm.
Period. No addendum.
No addendum. No
Oh, hey.
footnotes or
No addendum with John C. Dvorak
You followed
and
the
Adam Curry.
actual. God damn it.
There are no rules. Chaos.
I'm gonna have
Mayhem.
to make some art for no addendum.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Maybe you think something's better.
They talk about fucking space aliens and shit. Yeah, never mind.
It's an even worse waste of your time than when I did all those fake Sega covers for what was it? Oh,
With Altered Beast.
yeah, Altered Beast, like the Sperm Wars. Yeah, the Sperm Wars series. Sperm Wars. Oh, I gotta go looking back at that. That was some
I
brilliant
forgot
stuff.
that happened. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, go back and check out our a review of the Cox for that on YouTube, so you can see all the dumb Photoshop I did. But yeah, that's it for our thoughts on Megadeth's Rust in Peace. You can, of course, you can find it. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on our Spotify playlist. It'll be the reissue. It's there. Go listen. I would say, yeah, you just for the sake of being legit, at least listen to it there at once. But go seek out if you can find a CD. You can buy an old CD of before the reissue. Go find it. Find an album. Find the right version. However you may see fit. I'm going to just simply personally recommend purchases, but you can do whatever you like. I'm not your boss. I'm not your dad. At least I hope not. Oh yeah, I know. Now I'm a virgin. It's like, but yeah, go check it out. It's on a Spotify playlist. It's not the right album, or right version, but you can check it out. On that Spotify playlist will be my pick, or no, will be on my pick eventually, but the next week's pick, which is.
I was gonna say, you let it slip to me what it was, but like I did not listen to it enough to have an opinion about your pick yet, Petey. Fuck, man. Like, I specifically chose
I almost skipped you. I was like, no, we're skipping Drew. Like, the next week's pick is going to be Drew. Drew, what do you got for us?
Once you let slip to me your pick, I almost said to skip me. No, mine is a band that I found recently. They've been around for a little while, but they're a newer band out of Massachusetts. Their self-titled album, 4 Years Strong.
Mm-hmm. So look forward to that. That'll be the next episode, but that's then. And now is now. And you can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at Swagger. Brett is at HBDBibbard, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at XJuiceForX. I'm at PETEY RAVE. The show's at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. This is the website. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com is the email. Relly.net for this and other shows. Row TV.
Somebody rolling dice over there? Like,
sorry, I'm playing. I've got my own little like
1d4 plus 2 crossbow.
I can roll some dice. Wait, this is the Gen Con pack. Also, there's about 100 of them in this.
We usually get derailed at the beginning. This is the first time I think we've gotten derailed at the end in a while.
Yeah, and Squiggles is just playing all throughout that. Roll the 14. Until next time. Hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
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 I hope I lined that up right.
14.